So, welcome to Genos 2 segment of today's webinar. And a bit like in the Korg segment, we are revisiting somewhere we've been before, but from a whole different angle this time. Do you ever have one of those light bulb moments? There's a question. I had one the other day. I was sat in the house, and as you do, I was thinking about the live control section on a Genos 2. I mean, who doesn't sit in the house and think about that from time to time? No, seriously, I don't know why it cropped up, but I suddenly thought, why don't I just go out tomorrow to the office and make up a favourites bank? Because, well, look, let me explain first. Let me tell you what live control is. If you don't know, live control is this 6 dials and knobs here and these sliders. We're only looking at the 6 knobs today and what their different functions are. As the name would suggest, live control, these are things you can alter on the fly while you're playing. They're live, they're tactile knobs and sliders. You don't have to go into menus. That's what it's all about. And it comes in its preset form. Yamaha have given you functions. Now, the interesting thing about the 6 dials there is that if we press the assign button, we can go through 1, and that gives us a whole bank of functions there, 1 for each dial. We go to number 2, and we can assign some different functions, and we go to number 3. And it's number 3 where I've set up my favourites. I'm calling it favourites. Actually, they're my most useful ones. They're the go-to ones for me personally. Now, yours may be different. But what I want to do is I want to go through, because I've already set this up, but what I want to do is now talk through my reasoning as to why I've chosen those 6 functions as my go-to ones to have to hand on one bank. Now, you can do it probably with what Yamaha's already given you, but I might find, well, reverb, that's on number 1, but then I suddenly want to go to something like keyboard volume, which is on bank 2. So why don't I just put everything I want on bank 3? So that's what we've done. To access live control, go to your home page, and providing you haven't altered any of the tabs at the bottom of your home screen, it is under live control. Now you can see it's a duplication of that, but in terms of rectangles, etc. And if we look, I'm on the knob and slider tab at the top, and I've got the 3 different rows here which correspond with the 3 different settings here. And you can see as I press that, it highlights which one. So we're talking about number 3 here. So these are my settings. How did I get those settings in there? All you do is you press where you want to set a particular function to, and then you use the data wheel, and you can go through the multitude of choices you've got for each of these dials. As you change it, you can see it changes in the screen. So I've actually switched that one off there. So if I went to vocal harmony balance, it's there. It's now saying there. But I'm going to run through mine, and I'm just going to talk you briefly through my reasoning as to why I did what I did. First one is tempo. Now, I can already hear people thinking, what a fool. There's already tempo buttons out here. Well, of course there are. But these are plus and minus buttons. I get on better, personally, with a dial that we turn. It's what I'm used to for tempo. I know that if you tap one of the tempo, plus or minus, you can then take over with the data wheel, and it's much quicker. But I've still got 2 things to press at 2 different sides of the keyboard. So for me, having that tempo there is great. So if I was playing away, go into something quicker. So I can do it. Yeah, if I just want to make a minor adjustment or a big adjustment like I just did there, it's there. So I like that. The other thing is, it's great when you're on your home page. I can see the tempo, but what if I'd pressed to select a different sound? Unless I'm going to go and press exit, I now can't see my tempo. And it's just if you feel something's a bit slow or a bit quick, it's there. And I get used to that's where I go to alter the tempo. Okay, let's go back in. Look at the next one, release. Now, immediately you may see some different options have popped up at the bottom here. So tempo, there are no options. It just does tempo. When you go to release, which is, let's remember that is sustain, you can decide which sections are going to be affected when you turn the dial. I personally only use right one. I very rarely want sustain on the lower. I might if I was using a piano to do a little arpeggio, but that would be a real specific case where I want that. I don't want it on right 2 and right 3 as well, because I may be mixing, say, a piano sound where I want some sustain, and I might want a sound mixed with it that doesn't need the same amount of sustain. So I tend to keep it there, but you can select whatever you want. And again, just enables me to add sustain. Now, again, let me put the argument in place where somebody will say, well, I've got a sustain button over here. Yes, we have. Very clever, because we can assign a different sustain almost to every single instrument or every single sound in the machine. But if I choose my piano and I press sustain, yes, I've got sustain, but I've got sustain to the value of whatever I told it to be, or if you haven't touched it, it will be Yamaha's default setting. What if I just sort of put that on? There you go, I've now got sustain. But I just want a bit less than that. Well, I can't do that because I've got a predetermined amount of sustain on there. Whereas on here, I can turn, and if I feel it's a little bit much, I can just knock it back just a little bit. Reverb. Now that's, again, similar to sustain. I like to be able to just alter my overall reverb. And in this case, I certainly do have all the right hand sounds and the left voice. I might even include the style and the multipads on that as well, because if you took this out to another venue, you may have set your reverbs nice for at home, and then everything responds totally different in the venue you're at. It's nice to be able to just have that overall control. Want a bit more reverb? Now, you may or may not want the style. The problem, if you turn the reverb up too much and you're drowning the drums in reverb as well. So maybe that would be my reasoning for choosing the 3 right voices and the left voice, and I'll leave the styles and the multipads pretty much as they are. Because with the style, you don't want things like bass drums to have lots and lots of reverb on most of the time. Nor you don't want to overdo it on cymbals as well, because everything starts to blur and blend into each other, and it just becomes a bit fuzzy, if you like. Okay, next one along, keyboard volume. Okay, what does that do? Well, anything which is, let me just take that release back off. Anything which is a live sound and not part of a style, in other words. So right 1, right 2, right 3, and the left voice, they are controlled by the keyboard volume. The style won't be affected. Look, I can turn that. The drums, the style, still running at the same volume. But I can balance my right hand accordingly to the style. It's just sometimes you play away and you're thinking, the the style's drowning out the right hand a little bit. There might be a bit of leeway here to turn the keyboard volume up. Sometimes you think, well, actually, this is now drowning the style out, so you can just turn it back. The next one almost does the same thing, but in a slightly different way. This is balance. Now, what's interesting here, we have a new button come up, balance setting. Let me explain what balance does first. It's the balance between, primarily, the live sounds, which we've just assigned to the keyboard volume, and the style. So if we turn this, as I go clockwise, the style gets quieter, and the right hand will get louder. Go the other way, the style starts to become the prominent bit, and the right hand goes down. Now, how this works depends on what you put in the balance section. So you could have it work the other way round if you want. A could be controlling these and B could be controlling the style. But I leave it as A and B because A is the first one and it's to the left on the column, and that makes me think left-hand style. And B is to the right, and that makes me think of the right-hand sounds. Again, you have a choice here. Do you want all of the sounds, including the left voice, to respond? Do you want the styles and the multipads to be controlled as you go through? So now if you've got a mix of 2 or 3 sounds, they will all balance accordingly with the style. So those two, for me, although you may argue, well, they do pretty much the same thing, they do, but in a slightly different way, as you can see from the menu there. And there are some times where the keyboard volume would just be enough. There's other times where I need to change or balance the volume of both. And that's why I use the balance control as well. My final choice is cutoff and resonance. That just gives me some nice... see, I've left the balance right over there. Cutoff and resonance gives me some tone control, so I can make that piano more mellow. I can make it brighter. Again, I can just do that on the fly. I use this a lot with strings. I tend to take the cutoff down a little bit just to take the harshness off a few of the string sounds. So that's it. That's how I set it up. That's my reasoning. And if you do the same, you will have your own personal bank of, let's call it favourites, but in reality, we're talking about our most useful functions all on one row. Back to me in the studio.